Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the WorkHappy Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. It's a podcast where we bring on guests who love what they do, who are happy, who work happy, but also may not be happy 100% of the time. But the goal is to have them share what they're doing, how they are working happy, tips and tricks for you guys so that we can all work more happily. Because when we do that, there's more productivity, there's better mental health, and more revenue. And ultimately, when we have more revenue, we have more time to do what we truly love, whether that's family or hobbies, or in this case, like Gary and I, work. So our guest today, we met, I believe, online, Gary, during the pandemic. He is from New Zealand, born and raised in Israel, and he's a speaker, trainer, coach, and general just good guy. And I think one of the things that really kicked it off, Gary, was that we both have a pretty good sense of humor. Obviously, mine is better than yours, but welcome to the show. How about that?
Yeah, thank you. I leave right now. I think I am better at humiliating myself in front of people than you are. So you're funnier, but I'm better at making fun of myself.
Yeah, I appreciate the self-deprecating humor. My wife, not so much, but I think it's hilarious. But yeah, I just wanted to bring you on, introduce you to my network because I don't know, we just really connected. We've been friends for over 2 years. Still haven't met each other yet. But you were kind enough to bring me on in my early speaking career. I think you were the second person to bring me on. And after that, I walked upstairs and told my wife that I'm an international speaker because we were on Zoom between the US and New Zealand. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in your life journey and where you're at now, Gary.
But if I go through my life journey, we're looking at a couple of days of podcasting. But very briefly, as you said, born and raised in Israel, I didn't really, and this is probably a connector. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life when I was young. Still have no idea what I want to do with my life. But when I was 25-ish, in my mid-20s, I decided that I wanted to immigrate to Canada. And I read about the immigration and the process, and I realized that there is a shortage of chefs in Canada. So I immediately enrolled into a hospitality school, learned culinary arts, became a chef or an apprentice chef in the beginning, and started to gain experience so I can immigrate or apply to immigrate to Canada. And I worked in a restaurant, in one of the restaurants in Israel, and a friend of mine has left Israel to go travel the world and with the hopes of immigrating to New Zealand. And a few years after she left the restaurant, her and her husband called me and said, "Hey, look, we have a business in New Zealand. We have a small restaurant in it. Do you want to come over and manage the restaurant for us?" So I said yes and moved to New Zealand. Worked as a chef for quite a number of years, and then with the advice, guidance, and persuasiveness of my wife, left cooking and joined the real estate industry. Had an incredible journey in the real estate industry, and over the years, I probably through Toastmasters, I learned that I really enjoy public speaking and training people, helping people grow. I get an incredible kick out of that. After selling real estate for about 10 years, I moved from selling to training. Trained for one of the biggest real estate companies in New Zealand, and then went on my own to do what I do right now: training, coaching, talking to people, trying to make people laugh, which doesn't really work many times.
There you go. Now that journey from being a chef to sales to training, the theme there is obviously you're a people person, or I would at least 9 to 5 you're a people person. But what was that? Where have you been happiest? Has it been training where you're totally serving, or real estate where you're helping people move into houses, or was it being a chef and helping people have delicious and wonderful food memories, whether it was a date or a business luncheon or whatnot.
Yeah. I think probably what I do right now is where I am happiest. So there's probably two parts to my personality. One is I'm really happy, but I'm really busy. And I think a lot of people are like this. When we're busy, we feel like our life, we have a reason for living. So I'm really happy when I'm very busy. So cooking, obviously, extremely busy, a lot of pressure. So I was really happy during that time. Real estate, similar. When things are happening, running around everywhere, making things happen for the buyers and for the sellers, or more for the sellers and the buyers. And a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and you kind of focused on things. But what I do right now, the enjoyment comes from, I think it's an intrinsic happiness. I really enjoy helping people, seeing how they change in their life. It's like seeing a flower grow and open, where you work with somebody and they don't really understand and know what to do in the beginning, and slowly they begin to understand, they open up, and they become successful at what they do. The feeling is incredible when it happens. So from that perspective, what I do right now probably gives me the greatest joy and happiness.
Yeah. I hear you there. When we're in service, and I've been in sales my whole career as well too, you're selling a product and not really selling hope or change. And I loved what you said about the intrinsic, right? Because a lot of times we think happiness is extrinsic. Oh, once I get the car, the family, all this kind of stuff. But until we have something to find that purpose that makes us happy. And I don't know about you, but when I found that and stopped chasing money, I haven't had to worry about it.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, who do I get to help today?
Yeah. There's great joy in this, and I guess I learn a lot from my wife. My wife and me are complete opposites, a different person. Everything about us is different. My wife is one of those people who is just incredibly happy. She doesn't need much. Walking through the garden, she wakes up in the morning, goes out to the garden, sees a flower open up or a flower blooming, and I hear her shout, come over and take a look, and she's incredibly happy. And I'm one of those people who's constantly looking for, what do I do next? I'm really unhappy right now. I need more.
Okay.
But over the years, I learned from her to calm down a little bit and try and enjoy who I am and what I have, rather than constantly look for the next one.
Okay, so more be in the moment.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Have you always been, or what are your thoughts on this? Have you always been happy? Because I read that part of it's in our DNA, about 49% is in our DNA. 10% is about how we were raised, our income, our parents, our social system. But the last 35% is our choice, right?
Yeah.
People like, either you're born happy or not happy. And I disagree with that. I think you can be happy. And if you're having a bad day, I have too. Just because I talk about happiness at work doesn't mean every day I wake up. But what are your thoughts on how can we be happy? Can we choose happiness and work on it as well?
Yeah. It's really funny because before we officially started this, when you told me that you like how I'm always happy, I told you that I am naturally a miserable, unhappy, and negative person. But that's my personality.
Okay.
We're all different, and I'm wired. My doctor or my psychologist, I can't remember, one of them told me many years ago that I have a hyper-vigilant personality. I constantly look for what can go wrong so I can save myself, which is great. And that's great when you're running away from bears and wolves, but our world right now, it's not that good. But so I naturally, I'm a cautious person who's always looking for what can go wrong. But I think where I learned it, and that goes to answering you about can people choose to be happy, I definitely think that people can choose to be happy once they understand themselves.
Yeah.
So me understanding my personality and how I think and how I operate and how my brain operates helped me go, okay, so now I understand why I'm doing this. Can I work around it? So naturally, negative, miserable, unhappy, pessimistic. But I learned that this is who I am, and therefore I know how to work around it to make myself happy and where I need to go if I'm not feeling right. So we can definitely choose to be happy as long as we understand ourselves.
Yeah. No, I love that. And thanks for sharing it. A lot of people won't go talk to another person, whether it's a counselor or your doctor or our wives or our partners, to understand that. And I'm just reading a book. I don't know if you heard of Dr. Daniel Amen, Happier You, but he
No,
talks
no,
about the seven. Yeah, he does all the brains. He's done over 200,000 scans over the past 30 years. And in the book, I'm just starting out, but there's 7 different kinds of brain types. And it's interesting because I would have never thought that. When you said that, I laughed because I thought you were being funny, which is funny because you're not expecting it. So I'm glad that you understand your brain type, and this is what Simon is talking about, right? Because, yeah, and happy is not just because I'm happy today doesn't mean I'm happy tomorrow. But I think if we learn who we are and choose the happiness and find a way to be happy, there's more days that we do that, there's more fulfillment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And there's another really good book. I cannot remember the name of the author. It's called The Happiness Hypothesis. And that also talks about our happiness through our genes and the environment and what influences our happiness. I read that book and it helped me. I think that's where I learned that I'm naturally a negative, unhappy person.
And it's interesting too. We're talking about our wives being completely different. Similarly, are not the same, but she's more introverted than I am, right? So her happiness and her peace or her recharging is on the phone talking to a close friend or doing some reading or going outside and walking. And where I get the recharge is going out and meeting people at a networking event. So it's completely different. So even, I think that's a good point to remember, whether it's between clients or partners, is you have to remember just because I'm happy doesn't mean the other person's going to be happy, because what makes them happy is probably different than what makes me happy.
Yeah. I think that's where the acceptance is, where we go, right, this is I am, this is that person. And sometimes we need to move closer to the other person and sacrifice our happiness momentarily so the other person is happy and therefore we become happy. It's a lot of trade in relationships. And
no, but I love it, leaning on each other. No, I think that's great. Now, if somebody's listening and they're stuck and they're not happy and they're not sure, or similar to you, right, maybe they haven't found who they are, so they're not sure how to find the happiness, what would be one nugget that you can give them on how to start that journey like you have over the years?
I think talking to people who are really close to us really helps, and understanding that they will tell us. I think when I did this exercise a couple of times, I think I did it once when I shifted selling real estate to training, and one when I left the company that I was working in to work on my own. And I sent an email to a few people that I knew quite well, not necessarily close friends, but people that I knew quite well from business or some friends. And I asked them, what are 2 things that you think are really good qualities of me, that I have, and what are a couple of things that I need to work with? And then I got a list from people that I know and I trust, of things that they believe that I'm really good at, that they are my qualities, and some things that I'm not. And that taught me a lot about myself. I said, okay, so people say that I am funny. So people say that I can listen, that I am, I don't know, I'm diligent. So, all right, so that's where I'm good at. That's what I focus on.
No, I think that's great. And it's, I admire you even more. We're friends, but just to hear and understand that not everybody, because I've always been the happy guy ever since I was a kid. I get kicked down, but back up. But it's awesome to see somebody who understands themselves. Okay, here's how I'm going to be happy. And then you do that, and people don't even know the backstory, right? All they see
Yeah.
is Gary happy, helping, and whatnot. So, in your training, do you ever talk about the mindset in training? Because I know in sales, I've done it for years. You've done it for years. You get beat down a lot. You get a lot of rejection, right? So, do you talk about that in your training and speaking? I would imagine the mindset and how to be more positive and happy.
Probably less about being more positive and happy in my training, because my business is more sales. So it's not so much about being happy, it's about understanding the challenges and working through the challenges. And obviously, when we walk through the challenges, we feel better about ourselves, and we are happier through this. So I don't exactly talk about being happy, but about overcoming challenges, which builds confidence and creates that happiness. And one of the things you spoke about rejection, one of the things with rejection is that we don't like it. It's primitive stuff that goes, there's been a lot of research about why we don't like it. But and that's rejection, that's fear, that's all of those things that we try and stay away from. When we confront it in ourselves, when we go, I don't really want to do it, I don't feel comfortable, but you force yourself to do it. The minute you've done it, you feel so good about yourself because you conquered your fear, you conquered the challenge, and it makes you happier, more confident and happier. And my business, your business as well, or everybody who's in kind of self-employed or in sales business, a lot of the business is reaching out to people that you don't know, going out trying to get business, and that's rejection after rejection, and nobody likes it. The minute you force, if I have, say for example, 5 phone calls to make today, and today's a holiday in New Zealand, so I don't have, but if I had 5 phone calls to make today, and then that comes up as an appointment on my calendar, if I don't do it at the time that I'm supposed to do it, I'll spend the rest of my day thinking, oh, I need to do this, I don't want to do it, and I need to do that. And so I become negative in my head because I know that there's something that I need to do, but I don't want to do it, and I'm running away from it. But if I do those phone calls and I force myself and go, I do those phone calls, don't really want to do it, but I'm going to do it, and I spend the 10 minutes or an hour, however long it takes me to do it, the minute I've done this, I'm going, yeah, that feels good. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I'm free right now. I don't need to worry about it, and I'm happier.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And we used to call it dialing for dollars, and I made an Excel spreadsheet where how many dials I made, how many voicemails I left, how many conversations, how many appointments, and then sales. And so it's kind of reversed, right? There's a lot of dials to get to that one sale, but once you did it, at the end of the day, like, oh, okay, I made 40 calls and I set this many appointments, so I totally get it. So that's awesome. I had that question because I recently read a study, I think it's by the Harvard Business Review, saying that people who work happy or are up to 13% more productive, and happy salespeople sell 37% more.
Yeah,
which is an easy way to get extra commission.
yeah. It makes sense, and it's not just sales. It's people who are happier move. Their mind operates quicker, the movement is quicker, because when we're happy, yes, let's do it. Oh, I can do this. And we don't think too much. We don't overthink things. When we're unhappy, it's like, I really don't want to do this. Oh, do I have to? I'll have another cup of coffee. So everything is delayed. Everything takes longer. So it makes sense. Yeah.
So you're saying run towards happiness. Go
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
I love it, right?
Confidence and happiness. Force ourselves to do things that I almost fell down. Force ourselves to do those things because that confidence brings this happiness and our energies lift, if it makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. Good. Hey, before we wrap up, I will let everybody know how to get a hold of you in the show notes and whatnot. Yeah. But I do rapid 3 questions, a word or a sentence. But question number 1, what is the best advice you've ever been given?
I ignore advice.
Okay. What? Okay, awesome.
No, actually, no. I'll tell you, probably the best advice, my wife is my rock, but also the person who pushes me all the time. When I went through really bad periods of time where nothing was happening, she told me this: if you have the time to think about it, you have the time to do something about it.
Oh, I love it.
And that is brilliant. It's probably the best thing that I've, instead of going, oh, it doesn't work, cool, go and do something about it.
Yeah, awesome. Number 2, what was your favorite vacation?
Macau. Love Macau. I try and go there as often as I can. I love motorbike racing, street racing, and Macau has an incredible motorbike racing circuit. Yeah, love Macau.
Perfect. And finally, the last question, which makes everybody smile. What is your favorite ice cream?
Any ice cream, as long as it's not horribly made. I love ice cream, any flavor. Actually, no. There is, in New Zealand, there's a company called Capiti, and free advertisement. Yeah. And they used to do this bay ice cream, which Joa and pear sorbet. And that was the best thing that I've ever eaten. I'm really good at eating a lot of ice cream, but that was one of those ice creams that once you start eating it, you cannot stop until it's finished. And once it's finished, you want to go and buy more. Just incredible flavor. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore, but that was
good. Too bad. Yeah, you have to find a new one.
Yeah, it's
All right. Thanks for joining me, Gary. I really appreciate it. What is the best option for people to reach out to you, whether they're looking for a keynote speaker or training? Where should people go find you?
My website, barzilay.co.nz. So this word.
Thank you, Dana.
The weather predictions. Barzilay.co.nz. Website's the easiest. I'm on LinkedIn. I have my YouTube channel as well. Gary or Giyora Barzilay, whichever one. I'm the only one in the world with this name, so very easy to find. Just Google me. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks again for being on. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the listeners for tuning in again. If you enjoyed this while you're on a walk or the treadmill or in a car, please share with your friends. And if you have guests that you would like to see come on, please let us know and we'd be happy to do that. So until next time, thanks, Gary. Have a wonderful Monday down in New Zealand.
Thanks, Greg.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Absolute pleasure.